Now, the one thing that we do not have in this shop is a welding table. And like you, I probably do not have $5,000 to spend on a decently sized welding table that I can use for these projects, because a lot of these are gonna get bigger. But I know what I do have, about $400 to $500, and 2 of those Harbor Freight welding tables that I'm going to slap together and make a really nice welding table. We're gonna try to make it as nice as possible. Got a bunch of cool tools that need a place to go, so let's get started. So how are we gonna do that? There's 10 little screw holes that allow you to take this top off. We're basically just gonna measure out a steel frame that's double the width, because I have 2 of them. We'll take those little bolts out, and then we'll put them on top of a nice thick steel frame, and we can actually get started on building this thing again. And I know that's what you've all been waiting for, but we obviously have to build welding tables and stuff to do stuff like this. All right, so first things first, we need to measure this out. Now, it's obviously a 24 by 36 welding table sold at Harbor Freight. We're just gonna basically make a 48 by 36 welding table frame, and that's just gonna bolt right up underneath of this thing. Now I'm just gonna grab this piece of metal here, mark it out where I need to, and get to cutting. Now that those sections are done, we're gonna grab my 2 favorite tools and just clean these things up, so when we're welding it, it's just gonna be that much nicer. These are all cleaned up and my back is absolutely killing me. That sucks, but it's a very vital process because it just makes it look a lot better. But we're basically just gonna get these all lined up, make sure they're straight, and build the top of our table. All right, so now that we got through the painful process of making sure that everything is absolutely perfect, we're gonna get to welding. Let's get going. So now that this piece is all welded up, we're gonna make another square, and then we'll basically just add some legs to it, and there will be the base of our table. Then we can start adding accessories. And instead of making you guys go through that long process with me, I'm basically just gonna time lapse you guys. All right, so now that the legs are done, I'm gonna grab another piece of metal, clean it up, and then I'm just gonna do 3 individual pieces in between here, and then we'll get started on grabbing our tabletops. All right, so now that our 4 pieces are all cut out, I'm gonna basically clean these later because it's midnight. I'll clean them tomorrow, but tonight we're gonna get them welded up. All right, the table's all put together. And if this is really all you needed, this is actually a $350 table. It's about $150 for the tops and the tables, and then it's about $200 for the metal. All the metal isn't put on just yet, but this is a $350 table. This is about what most people would need in size, strength, and even mobility. But we're gonna do a little bit of extra stuff here. We're actually gonna be doing a really nice industrial look for this thing. Now, this half is gonna be a workbench, more or less, and this half is kinda gonna stay more welding side. I wanted the holes, but on this side, I needed something with a little bit more beef. Obviously, it's gonna be flat planed and everything's gonna be nice, but I needed something that was a little bit stronger, and I feel bad really banging and bending on this thing versus this piece. So we got a bunch of metal over there, and we're gonna finish framing this thing off, and then we can get started on our doors.
First things first, we gotta replace the old blades on my chop saw and also my skill saw.
All right, so now that we got the blades both on here and on our chop saw, let's get to cutting.
30. And you obviously get the gist, we cut more out.
All right, so now that we got the bars done, all we gotta do now is just get the center piece cut up, and then we get to welding these pieces off, then we can get started on our doors. All right, cool.
I was showing off the new blade to my father and kind of unlocked it without remembering that the piece is hanging off of the table.
Ow! And stuff like that is exactly why I'm building this table. I'm stupid, I know, I should have let it go, and should have been wearing glasses because this thing took a giant chunk out of my lip. You can kind of see it, but holy crap, that was pretty scary. But we're gonna get back to cutting this thing up and be safer. And I'm looking away. Survived. All right, so we safely made it. Now we got our 3 little pieces cut out. Let's get them welded in, and then we can start it on everything else. My microphone died, but basically we're just getting the rest of the frame rails done for the framework. All right, it's now about 2 hours in the future, and we basically just got all of our framing done. I didn't want you guys to just sit through cut on the chop saw, but whole thing is basically ready to get its doors and the sheet metal put on top of it. So that part I'm actually gonna film because that part's gonna be, you know, kind of cool. I mean, we still got a lot of stuff to do too. It's Saturday at about 4 o'clock, and this is exactly what it looks like. So if you're watching this Sunday, this is what it looked like yesterday. And like I said, if you wanted to keep this thing under $500, you could still just basically rip everything out of there, get a nice little flat sheet of that braided steel over there, and then boom, you'd have a full welding table for less than 500 bucks. But this is YouTube, and I gotta be a little extra on this app. Now this table would not be industrial style if it did not have that big old latch and those big old doors. Now, we're gonna get on top of that. I'm gonna make the doors, basically just clamp it to the frame right here, weld them up, and then we have a big old latch that I'm gonna make. I already know how to make that to where it's not too heavy, but it still looks good. And after getting the door frame all measured out and cut up, I basically just put these 2 little spacers in between my door frame so that it basically gives it a nice gap, and then I started on the hinges. All right, so our hinges are now done. Obviously, we're gonna clean these up when we fully weld them so they'll look nice and flush, but you can open and close the door. It seals very nicely, and all we're gonna do now is just basically get the rest of the frame done. And I don't know if I wanna do the waves sideways or if I wanna do them up and down, that container look. I don't really know yet. We're gonna figure that out when I get to that part. But we got a lot more to do, so I'm basically just gonna time skip you guys real quick, like. Welcome back, and look at how amazing this thing looks. Bam, opens up nice and smoothly, there's no noise. Absolutely perfect. We're gonna cap these off, make them look a lot better. Obviously, we're gonna put a little piece of strap steel back there, but now we gotta get started on basically just doing the latching mechanism that all shipping containers have, and then we can get started on all the paneling this thing needs. And I know what you're wondering, well, how are you gonna make it look like that? Now, we got these scrap pieces right here, and just hold on, let me cook. Come along with me. First things first, we need to clean and cut these pieces because they're just a little bit too long. I don't want it to stick out that much. Well, that didn't work, but I finally got a tool that I actually, this weekend got plugged in and working. Plasma torch, so we're gonna torch these bastards. Now, we had to get the plasma torch run. Obviously, we're getting the arc droid soon, and also, I just need to practice, and I don't wanna use a grinder. I hate using grinders. There are points in civilization where nothing is ever the same. And in the YouTube universe, today is that day. Let's get started. Now viewing the greatest of all time, saying I can get better. I promise they all lying on my confidence. Yeah, that's right. Look, I think time you start using your common sense. Everybody watch out, cause the no grinder dust, no mess to clean up, just a clean cut, and man, that was beautiful. Let's do it again. Yeah. Bam! Oh my gosh, it's so fun! Now, even though that tool takes a little bit of time to set up, it still is less annoying, and I'd rather use a less annoying tool that does way better jobs than the grinders, and it's just more fun. But that being said, we're gonna get this little piece of pipe cleaned off and those bolts cleaned off, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so now that these pieces are all nice and shiny, let me show you what we're working with. We're basically just going to use these bolts and these hinges, and we're going to shove the bolt up inside, bolt it down up top, and and then we're just gonna weld these into here. Obviously cut it down to size on the shiny end, but that's basically gonna be our hinge, that big old chunk of metal. I didn't want it that heavy duty because it doesn't need to be. And then I'm just gonna put a nice little lever and a latch, chunk, so that you can lock this thing and it will actually be functional, not just for fashion. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm basically just gonna mount these pieces up here real quick. So I'm gonna get on that. All right, so I imagine you're seeing what I'm saying right now. So we're gonna get this piece all cut up. I'm actually did the bottom one first just so that it lines up perfectly like this. I'm just gonna measure out exactly where I need it to be, chop this off, and then weld this on. Maybe? If not, it's gonna suck. Yoink. See, here at Speed Fix Industries, all our parts are precision fit. In there. Precision fit. But now this piece is actually done, we're actually gonna get this thing welded up and put in there. All right, I know I'm gonna get kind of yelled at, but I entered flow state. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I told you guys that I was gonna get you a video every single Sunday at 5 o'clock. By the way, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. But I finished up this little hinge, or making it, and this little bracket that holds it. It's basically gonna lift up like a normal, everyday storage locker, those big old containers. But we're gonna get on top of that and get as far as we can. It is literally 1:30 in the afternoon. I was editing all morning, and we're gonna get started on this. So you guys can have a video every Sunday. We're basically gonna do the same thing as we did yesterday with the plasma torch. We're gonna put this little hinge, obviously not right here, it's gonna be deeper in, but we're gonna put it right here, and then we're gonna also smooth off these pieces as well, just so that if I'm ever walking past here, I don't just go wham and cut the crap out of my leg. Although I am looking at it right now, and I kinda like the way it fits. So I don't know, I might leave it, just maybe smooth it off a little bit, but I do have to put a curve on this edge so that it doesn't look weird, and also so that it doesn't keep on hitting this while it's rotating. All right, here comes the slightly scary part because we'd obviously have to rebend this and cut it, but basically we're just gonna trace it out, freehand it hopefully, because I can't find something that has that round a diameter. We're going in.
So baby, you're gonna need some patience. I already won, now I'm just making a statement.
Now on camera it looks like trash, but in person it's a little bit better. I can easily grind that down though, easily, versus cutting it with a grinder and hacking it up, and it'd just take a lot longer. But now we're gonna grab this piece and get to cutting it up. Get shit on. All right, so I got these things all cleaned up and perfect. This one is just fresh off the cutter, and we're gonna get this thing basically a hole through here, bolt it together, and weld it on, and it'll be a latch. It's literally just that easy. That easy, he says. This is literally sped up 50 times. That's how long it took with these dull bits. That took a really long time because that was a really old bit, but we got these pieces done, so let's get it welded up. Now I'm gonna tell you something this idiot hasn't realized yet. He's welding it on the wrong side. And the reason I welded this on rather than just bolting it is because one, it still works like it's supposed to, but it also has a flat flush end at the very back of it. So when you open this door, there's not a bolt there, it looks flush. But that being said, it is finally time to get this piece welded on. Listen to the confidence of this man, thinking he did everything right, but little does he know. Whoa, whoa, keep it PG, my friend, there's kids watching. Let's just get past all this yelling and screaming and get back to the point where I fixed it and it's good and we're welding. And I don't want to hear a word out of you. We fixed it, it's on there, and I'm not redoing it. But anyways, it's time to get this thing welded on. And there she is. This is our little welding table. I mean, the latch works absolutely perfectly. It goes down where it needs to. Like I said, we're gonna finish and polish everything up, but basically it's just gussets and sheet metaling, and that shouldn't take that long. I have a skill saw with a metal blade, but if you guys enjoyed that, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and I will see you guys later, and stay freaky.